Thanks for tuning in to the Women's Vibrancy Code, a podcast dedicated to helping women move from exhausted to energized, balance their hormones, and feeling turned on by their life, their lover, and themselves. I'm your host, Maraya Brown. I'm a Yale and functional medicine trained women's health expert, midwife, mom, keynote speaker, and self-made entrepreneur. I'm the founder of my signature program, the Women's Vibrancy Code. So sit back, relax, and let's chat about your energy, hormones, libido, and embracing your feminine power. Oh, and you might want to have pen and paper to take some notes on some of these episodes. Welcome back. I'm really thrilled to talk today about women in their 40s and some of the fluctuations that can result in severe mental illness. And more specifically, I follow Shailene Johnson on Instagram. She is such a character, such a hoot. I love watching her. For Facebook, I'm going to go ahead and share screen. I want to show you what I'm looking at. And if you're listening on the podcast, I can have the podcast team put a link into her Instagram. But what I'm looking at is this post here, you guys. New research. What date did this post? Let's see. She's talking about research from November 2023. I don't know what date she posted this, but it says new research. Women in their 40s experiencing hormone fluctuations result in severe mental illness. Women in this age group experience life-altering changes, not just to their bodies, but to the chemistry of their brains. These changes often pale in comparison to menopause. Few women recognize that fluctuating hormones can result in these symptoms. Ready for it? Drum roll, please. Mood swings, horrible sleep, weight gain, inflammation, migraines, itchy skin, joint pain, cold extremities, exhaustion, cellulite, low libido, hair loss, dry skin, acne, rashes, hot flashes, nausea, urinary tract infections, bladder issues, and weird periods. I'm going to get into this, I promise. She goes on to say, for myself, these things were happening, but not all at once. Some weeks I felt great, so I convinced myself I just needed to be more disciplined. Newsflash: discipline doesn't regulate hormones. Let me say this again. This is on her Instagram. Newsflash: discipline doesn't regulate hormones. It is your right to request a complete hormone panel. If your practitioner isn't the right fit, find one who specializes in hormone support. And then she says, like and see captions. Oh my goodness, so good. So let's unpack this a little bit. Okay, so first, she's talking about mental illness in our 40s. And I often relate to it as there's puberty, right? And the other bookend is menopause, but really it's perimenopause. What is perimenopause? It's that kind of transitional chapter where we're getting ready and preparing for a very different season. It starts as early as age 35. Most women don't realize that. How do we know we're officially into menopause? Once we've gone 12 months without a menstrual bleed. So we have this big, long chapter of perimenopause from around age 35 to around 52. Average age of menopause is 51 and a half. And I think of the analogy of the caterpillar going into the chrysalis. For anybody that knows much about butterflies, when the caterpillar goes into the chrysalis, it literally becomes goo. Okay. It will try on a form of, how about these wings? How about them apples? And then it goes, yeah, no, back to goo. Multiple rounds of that until it's found that final form and says, that's it. Butterfly wings are created, pushes its way out the chrysalis. You cannot help it I've tried this before when we had the butterfly kit, and there was one that was, well, we tried to just open the little chrysalis to see if the butterfly would come out. It cannot be done. The butterfly has to struggle, so to speak, push its own wings through the chrysalis. It pumps the fluid into the wings that then it emerges from the chrysalis and its wings are ready to fly. Okay. So this big range of for women in our 40s, we are turning to goo. Okay. Newsflash, discipline doesn't regulate hormones. Oh my gosh. So good. We go through this chapter of who am I? We become more unapologetic. Hormones are changing. Adrenals are changing, which is then changing the gut microbiome in our gut, which is then changing production of serotonin, as well as how we're absorbing our nutrients. Then it's impacting thyroid. It's this whole cascade, not to mention the chapter where most women start taking an account. What has worked so far in my life? What hasn't? What do I actually want? What if I stop doing what everybody else wants and I take a pause and look at myself in the mirror and say, what unfinished business is there? What goals haven't been accomplished? What unresolved emotional stuff is there? In what scenarios am I still pointing fingers and blaming my childhood, my parents, and the women in their 40s go, enough. All right. It is time to get real. It is time to turn to goo and prepare for that next chapter. How beautiful and spectacular to become the crone in the community. Go into menopause. How amazing that we live in a day and age right now. I'm recording this at the end of 2023, where the life expectancy of an average woman is in her 80s. Okay. That was unheard of. I'm taking a sip of my electrolyte water. So good. That was unheard of 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Women didn't live beyond menopause. Okay. Now we are paving new waters, paving new paths. Okay. We are trailblazing in our own right. I heard Dr. Christiane Northrup once say on a summit that I attended, when you look at second and third world countries, the number one determinant of the likelihood of a child living beyond 1 year of age is the presence of a grandmother. Let me say that again. The number one determinant of a newborn baby living beyond age 1 is the presence of a grandmother. And hey, hurrah, hurrah, we are in a time in the world where women are living. We're living well beyond our 40s, well beyond our 50s, well beyond our 60s. And so now we get to really look at how do we make the most of this chapter of being in our 40s. And let's call a spade, that the chemistry of our brains is changing. Our hormones are changing. Some people say, just go on bioidenticals. Some people say, I don't want to go on a prescribed medication. I want to see if I can address this naturally. Lifestyle, nutrition, personalized supplementation, self-awareness, recalibration, changing my thermostat or set point. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I'm like, yeah, girl, if I'm going to cheer you on, if you know you want bioidenticals early on, you're going to find a great compounding pharmacy, someone who really sees you, knows you, is ordering phenomenal hormone testing and giving you personalized options, and it's making a difference. Sweet. To the woman who says, no, thank you, I really want to address this naturally with my nutrition and supplementation, and you're successful with it and you're feeling phenomenal. Sweet. I have the esteemed privilege of supporting ambitious women in all options. Okay. Regardless of what it is that you're wanting. Some come to me, they say, I'm on bioidenticals and I want to get off. Some say, I don't know what I want, but I know that I'm not feeling great. And so we get to dig in and layer it. Starting, of course, I love what she said. Let me pull it up again. She said, It is your right to request a complete hormone panel. If your practitioner isn't the right fit, find one who specializes in hormone support. The thing I want to add to that is many women think that they have requested and been given a complete hormone panel. And many women come to me and they say, here are the hormones that have been tested. And my provider said everything looks fine, or they didn't really give me any solution, or they just told me, oh, it's part of aging, or here's an antidepressant that will take your hot flashes away. And I look at the labs and I go, no, there's so much more that we can look at. Okay. So have you gone to a practitioner where you feel heard and seen and understood? Okay. They are looking at you both quantifiably through your labs, hopefully the great labs, and they're listening to the qualifiable pieces. Okay. Your lifestyle, your stress level, your symptoms, your background and your childhood, and the things that are important to you. Okay. The nuances of how you're feeling. Okay. When it comes to testing, have they ordered stool testing, urine testing, saliva testing, and blood testing? That is one clue for me that you're on the better track. Okay. I don't know if it's the right track, in my opinion, but the better track. Okay. When we're looking at blood tests, that's where you're going to look at your thyroid, your vitamin D level, your insulin levels, some great inflammatory markers, maybe some propensity towards iron deficient anemia or B vitamin deficiencies. Okay. Looking through urine, I love the Dutch Plus test. So that's going to look at dried urine total comprehensive hormones. We can look at your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone at a specific time in your menstrual cycle if you're still a menstruating woman. And what does your body do with those hormones? Through what pathway does it get rid of those hormones? And that also impacts your symptoms. Plus, the Dutch Plus test, when we add the plus, is going to look at saliva. So I can look at a 24-hour cortisol curve, plus what's called the cortisol awakening response. You don't need to know all that, except just know that I can look at how your body is handling stress when you first wake up, at 30 minutes, at an hour, around lunchtime, before bed. And if you happen to wake up in the middle of the night, that tells me a lot about your adrenal function, about how your body is handling inflammation and stress, and how long this has been going on. And then through stool, not just like the blanketed OMP that I was taught to order as a primary care provider and women's health expert and provider, but looking at what's called the GI map. So we can actually look at the breakdown of the different bacteria and parasites and candida and all the things that can show up and all the nuances of the interrelationship between them. So what I want you to hear is, I'll go back to all those symptoms. We'll unpack them a little bit. But when it comes to testing, we're looking for the provider who you feel heard and seen by. They're looking both quantitatively and qualitatively. They're ordering thorough tests, okay? Open to the idea of looking at the test through a different lens of normal range. As an example, TSH, which is your thyroid stimulating hormone, often will say normal is like 0.4 to 4.5. Okay, that's what I was taught at Yale. Great education as a nurse practitioner, ran the women's health and federally funded clinics and private practices for a long time. And I'm sorry, I didn't know because I wasn't taught until I learned. I'm looking at a TSH between 1 and 2. So it might say on the lab results, normal, and nobody even follows up with a T4 and a T3 and a reverse T3 and your thyroid antibodies. So maybe, just maybe, you've gone to the practitioner, they've done their best, they've ordered some relatively good tests, but they're looking at them through the wrong lens. So that leads me to, it's not just the test that you have ordered, it's who do you have to read it? Is it their specialty? So like Shailene says, find one who specializes in hormone support. Is this what they do? Okay. For me, for 23 years, I've been supporting women. Okay. Since 2007, I've been holding the container and running women's circles. Since 2000, I've been attending births. And although I don't do obstetrics anymore, I still midwife people. both men and women. I midwife them through chapters of change. I midwife them through the chrysalis and into the butterfly. Sometimes I midwife their clitoris too. um, Sidetrack. Oh, I think I'm blushing a little bit. That's not like me. So what do they specialize in? Okay. And do they know how to read these specialized functional tests? For me, I have a team of master coaches because I know when it comes to gut microbiome, there is so much more to learn. And my specialty is hormones. So I've brought in a team specialist who's a nutritionist and a dietitian. She's flown all over the world to teach clinicians how to read the GI map. She specializes in gut health. Okay. So then she's the one that comes in to specifically read the GI map because I want to make sure that the clients that come in and hire me and the team are getting the best. Okay. And on the same note, in regard to these changes in our 40s, where women go, my libido's going down, and I say, okay, is it that you're not turned on, or is it that you're not turned on by what's being offered? Let's look at your hormones. Okay. Let's look at your lifestyle. Let's look at the dynamics of your relationship. Let's look at your stress levels. Let's look at your burnout. And oh, by the way, I also have a team specialist who used to teach neuroscience at UCLA and USC. She's a psychotherapist. She's a sexologist, a somatic specialist, and she's one of the best at what she does. So some of the women really enjoy having one-on-one time with her. Or if you come into my group program, being part of group conversations. And some who like self-paced learning, they get to access the portal and watch all of the recorded calls that she's facilitated over the last, 3 years. Some of the women bring their husbands and then they have couples sessions, right? We get to address the fact that it is okay for you to continue to advocate for yourself, to say, this is not just about discipline, okay? I'm going to find someone who this is what they specialize in. They can be online. They do not have to be in the geography that you live. And I feel heard and seen. Okay, let's unpack the list of symptoms that she gave, which once again were so good. Okay, so once again, mood swings, horrible sleep, weight gain, inflammation, migraines, itchy skin, joint pain, cold extremities, exhaustion, cellulite, low libido, hair loss, dry skin, acne, rashes, hot flashes, nausea, bladder infections, bladder issues, and weird periods. Wowza. Yes, this is comprehensive. There's more, oh, by the way, but let's start here. Mood swings. Okay, in our 40s, as we start ovulating a little bit less often, ovulation is what stimulates the production of progesterone. So now progesterone and estrogen are both changing. That is going to impact our moods. Took a sip. Additionally, our adrenals get the knock on the door. Okay, so they start picking up the brunt. But if we've lived high stress lives, we get a little bit tired. Okay. Then we don't have the resiliency, so to speak. And then our thyroid is impacted. So now we're not speaking our truth. And now we feel even more tired. And then it's impacting our sleep. So mood swings are real. Not to mention, as estrogen goes down, it then impacts the gut. Okay. And the gut is also playing a role in production of estrogen. So now we have this loop. And oh, by the way, 90% of our serotonin is produced in our gut. Serotonin is the hormone to make us happy. It's the thing that's then converted to melatonin in order for us to sleep. Okay, can you see how everything impacts something else? It's this intricately woven web. And sometimes I think many practitioners are looking at it in a silo, right? What's your symptom? What's your lab? What's your diagnosis? What's your drug? And we have to remember that we're complex dynamic beings. Okay, so horrible sleep is, yes, drastically impacted by the hormones, okay, both estrogen and progesterone, as well as mood stability. Blood sugar stability. Because as we get into our 40s, our insulin resilience or insulin resistance starts being impacted. And so it might be that you have an impeccable diet. You're actually really good at keeping your blood sugar steady throughout the day, but your insulin resilience is changing, which is now going to impact your moods and it's going to impact your sleep. Can you see how all of this ties together? So what do we do about it? There's all sorts of things that we can do about it. Okay. If you're wanting more estrogen, for some, their body will respond really well to primrose oil and Perimeria mirifica. I'm not suggesting that to you because I don't know your specific scenario. So as I go through these symptoms and I give some little tidbit things that you might want to start with, I'm not saying that that's something I'm suggesting for you specifically because I don't know your scenario. Okay. I don't know what you've tried. I don't have the quantifiables. And so I'm not suggesting that you just go willy-nilly shooting darts in the dark, but I do want to give some just broad suggestions. Okay. Progesterone, we need to ovulate in order to produce progesterone. If we're not ovulating and we're wanting to boost the progesterone level, wild yam cream, chase tree berry, and some of the B vitamins are very helpful. Okay, so then she mentions weight gain. What's going on with the weight gain? Weight gain is partially because of the changes in estrogen. As estrogen starts going down, our body's like, ooh, I need more. I'm going to store it in fat because that's where estrogen gets stored. It's kind of a smart compensatory mechanism the body's doing. Plus, the adrenals are having more work added onto them. So particularly the belly weight, that's often adrenals. Okay. And now our gut is changing. So we're not absorbing the nutrients that we're eating. Okay. And then all of that impacts the thyroid. So now the metabolism goes down. Maybe you end up with something like Hashimoto's. There's a lot of factors there with the weight gain, not to mention our inner critic comes up bubbling and boiling up and over. Okay. We start really getting clear and unapologetic with who am I in the world, and we become fierce. And if we have unresolved emotional tension, we are overdoing it and overworking it. Overworking, I see that showing up in weight changes with women. Inflammation, we just feel more aches and pains in our body. Our body might be slowing down its metabolism, shifting how it's absorbing the nutrients. Migraines are often showing up because there's a wider gap between the estrogen and progesterone as our cycles are changing and our body's not producing the same amounts or producing them at the same rhythm. For inflammation, I would love to see, once again, the Dutch Plus test, the GI map, and a CRP in your blood testing. That can go a long way. From a thyroid perspective, make sure that they've ordered what's called a reverse T3. For migraines, some simple things to start with. Obviously addressing the hormones, obviously addressing the thyroid, obviously addressing the gut health and the inflammation. Outside of that would be hydration. Okay. We've got to do a better job at hydrating, getting proper electrolytes in. I'm drinking water right now with elemental electrolytes. I love them. I also make sure that I'm supplementing with magnesium. Okay. And then there's some kind of fine-tuned supplements that can move the needle with migraines, depending on what's going on. Some scenarios, some bioidenticals can go a long way. Itchy skin is often coming, well, there's so many factors there. It can be gut. It can be the reduction in estrogen, because the estrogen and histamine have a really synergistic effect. And so estrogen is changing, going down. Often histamine is going up, which can create new rashes, can create itchy skin. Plus, our body's ability to maintain hydration is shifting. Our collagen levels are shifting and going down as estrogen is going down, which sometimes results in itchy skin. Same with thyroid. One of the side effects of a sluggish thyroid or hypothyroidism can sometimes be itchy skin or strange little patches and rashes. Last thing I'll say with itchy skin is liver. Okay. If the liver is being taxed, remember the liver, and last I heard, I think it has a lot, like 350 jobs that we know of each day. Anything we're exposed to through our skin, through our nose, through our mouth, the liver has that job of identifying, do we like it? Do we not like it? Are we going to absorb it? Are we going to get rid of it? Right. And as the liver is taxed, simply by aging. Maybe if you've got high stress, maybe if you're exposed to a lot of endocrine disruptors, maybe if you're drinking too much alcohol, that can also show up in itchy skin. Okay, joint pain. I'm going to go a little bit more swiftly because there's a lot of these and I want to make sure everybody gets something that's like, ooh, that was good. Joint pain, everything I've said already. Okay. Zyflamend, I like. It's made by New Chapter as a supplement. Sometimes that can make a big difference. The other thing I find with joint pain is if we look at your GI map and your inflammatory markers and we go, you know what? I don't think gluten is serving you. For some women, they just simply take out gluten and wow, what a difference it makes. Or we finally order those thyroid antibodies and lo and behold, you actually have Hashimoto's and Graves'. I had a client, she had been diagnosed with hypothyroidism and on medication for her thyroid for 10 years. No one had ever looked at her antibodies. Okay, so I ordered them and she had Hashimoto's. And she went to her endocrinologist and was like, look. And he said, of course you have Hashimoto's. Everybody has Hashimoto's. And she's like, well, why didn't you tell me? He goes, because there's nothing you can do about it. I'm like, oh my goodness sakes. So those are things to make sure that we're ruling out when it comes to joint pain. Cold extremities can sometimes be B vitamin deficiencies, also a sluggish thyroid. Okay. And so a methylated B complex, how do you know if it's methylated? When you look at the ingredients, it will say methylcobalamin and methylfolate. Okay, if it says folic acid, that's not what I'm talking about. I want it to say folate or methylfolate. And then make sure it says methylcobalamin, then we know we're at least on the right track with your B complex. Exhaustion, oh my goodness, there's so many factors there. Exhaustion, I should do another podcast just on exhaustion. It's all of it. Are you turned on by your life? Are you turned on by your lover? Are you turned on by yourself? Do you have an attitude of gratitude? Okay. Are you setting boundaries? How is your sleep? You might want to go back to episodes 55, 56, 57. I did a whole deep dive just on sleep. There's so much that we can address with helping you get better sleep. Okay. The exhaustion is real. Just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. Okay. I can tell you, I'm 46. I have 3 young children. I run a business, a household, I have a husband, I have friends, I have a very full life. My kids are in private schools and lots of sports and travel sports. And I can honestly say I don't get tired. Okay. At night, I fall asleep swiftly. When it's time to go to sleep, my head hits the pillow and I'm out. Maybe someone might say that's because I'm tired. I don't think so though. I think it's that I sleep well. Now, in my scenario, I'll be honest, I do sometimes still struggle with that 2 to 3 a.m. wake up where my mind is buzzing and my body's exhausted. I'm working on it. And right now, for the last few months, I've moved it. Now, like this morning, I woke up at 5. Now, I don't know what's going on. I've never been a morning person in all of my life. Once I took out gluten and caffeine and dairy, I started waking feeling rested and chippery in a way that was unlike me. So let's think. At that point, my husband and I had been together for 10 years and he knew, like, don't talk to me in the morning. And he's kind of tiptoeing around. And I'm like talking to him and he's going, really? Can I talk to you? So, but even with that, I would still always sleep until 7 or 8. I'm an entrepreneur. I can run my own schedule. Now I'm naturally waking between 5 and 6. I actually feel alert and ready to go. Okay. So, what I want to say is follow my footsteps. Okay. Come and work with me. If you're exhausted, there's a lot to it. Just come work with me. Okay. We'll give you a personalized plan between me and the team. And I can't tell you exactly what that's going to be today, but I can tell you I've dialed it in for me. I've dialed it in for the hundreds of clients that I've worked with across multiple continents, and it's real. Okay. Cellulite, yes, yes. I have not conquered that one yet. I will admit I have cellulite, and I'll also admit I don't exercise as much as I would like. So I might be lean and thin, But I know that I am at a time in my life where I have to do more weight bearing exercise, and I need to find ways to spend less time sitting here in this chair. So it is something that I would like to shift for myself. In your scenario, maybe you already are great at fitting in exercise. Maybe you're great at doing weight bearing exercise. My question is, are you doing it too much where you're taxing your adrenals? Sometimes we need to shift the way in which you're moving. But yes, yes, in our 40s, weight bearing exercise becomes a non negotiable. Okay. We have to do it in order to maintain the muscle strength, help our testosterone levels. And then the cellulite conversation is a complex one because it relates to estrogen and collagen as well as muscle loss. Low libido. Oh my gosh, there's so many episodes I've done on that. If any of you follow me, I mean, just stay in my space. I can give lots and lots and lots of pointers. I've already given a couple, but obviously your testosterone level, your adrenal well-being. I want you to know that cortisol is kryptonite to the libido. Okay. Cortisol is important. We want it to rise in the morning. It prepares us for our day. Okay. If that lion shows up, if there's a stressful experience, if we want to get up and move and go and have strength and energy, we want cortisol. But also, if it's too high, it's kryptonite to the libido. If I look at your 24-hour cortisol curve and it's too low or it's flat, that tells me it was too high for too long and now your adrenals are exhausted. Now you got nothing. All right. So libido, there's so much to it. A lot of it is what is going on in our brain. Okay. Understanding that the female arousal system is responsive. The male arousal system is spontaneous. Okay. Hair loss. Hair loss, there's a lot going on there. A lot of it is hormonal. So once again, looking at your sex hormones, your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone, and your thyroid. One key tip, if you're losing the outside of your eyebrows, that is a sign of a sluggish thyroid, just as a heads up. But the thinning hair, we're thinking stress level, we're thinking the hormones where you're starting that transition into kind of the next chapter of perimenopause and into menopause. I'm thinking, let's make sure we look at your thyroid as well as your B vitamins. And if you're already adding a great methylated B, is your body absorbing it? Okay, so what's going on with your gut health? The thing I want to say about hair is it's one of those that will like take one for the team. Okay, so if something is going on inside of our body where there's an imbalance, we're not producing the hormones, stress levels too high, there's a gut dysbiosis, thyroid condition, the hair will take one for the team. It's all good. The hair's like, don't worry about me. I'll send the nutrients back to the body. Okay, so sometimes when I hear women talking about thinning or dry or brittle hair, I think, what's going on systemically? Dry skin, I feel like I've already talked about that. Acne, that's an interesting one. Acne, I definitely think of with the hormone changes, but specifically, I would love to look at your testosterone through a Dutch Plus test. And how does your body get rid of the testosterone? Does it go down more of the alpha pathway or the beta pathway? And if it is going down more of that alpha pathway, how do we blunt it so that sometimes that can decrease the propensity towards acne? And then looking at your gut health, okay, gut microbiome test, you're going to collect your poop. And then me or one of the team members will take a peek at it. And sometimes some simple diet modifications. Ironically, healthy fats can be really helpful for acne. And it's kind of counterintuitive. People think, won't that clog my pores? But actually, it can be beneficial. Rashes, I've already talked a good amount about that. Hot flashes, woo, hot flashes. Reduction in estrogen. It's really just, we got to look at your estrogen and your progesterone, go in there. I've had some great success, obviously for women that go on bioidenticals. But if you're not wanting to go on bioidentical hormones, starting with something like primrose oil, a quality omega. I like the Juice Plus vegan omegas. I've had a lot of women that have reported a pretty significant reduction in hot flashes just with that. Also, Praria mirifica, Dong Quai. You can get those menopause mixes with black cohosh that can move the needle with hot flashes. keeping blood sugar stable and making sure that you're not going to bed drinking a lot of fluids before bed. Sometimes what will happen is if the bladder's full, it will give a cortisol surge. It wakes you and that stimulates a hot flash. Nausea. Oh gosh. There's so much to that. I'm going to table that one and say, if we work together, we'll dig in. Bladder infections, a lot of that, once again, is hormonal. As the estrogen goes down, the thinning of the tissue is happening both around the vaginal wall, so vaginal dryness, but also the the canal, the urethra, and up to the bladder is also changing, which can change the propensity and the way that E. coli travels up. So it can increase our chance of bladder infections. The good visual is if you think of a new sponge, like a kitchen sponge, how it's nice and thick and spongy. That's our tissue when we're in our 20s and 30s. Okay. As we get into 40s, 50s, and beyond, imagine a sponge that's been out on the counter, used for too long. It's dry, it's flat, it's lost that sponginess or resiliency. The tissue goes more in that direction as the hormones change. So that's going to create some bladder issues, vaginal dryness, vaginal pain, pain with sex, as well as bladder infections. So we get to go in and address it nutritionally, supplementally, topically, sometimes hormones. And I've had great success. One thing, there's a product by Bonafide called Reverie, which is vaginal suppositories that are hyaluronic acid. So it's helping to reintroduce hydration. Also, vaginal DHEA can go a long way. So those are a couple suggestions. And then the last one, and I'm almost done, is weird periods. Okay. As our hormones are changing, then we're not getting that estrogen to cross over the threshold. So we're not having what's called the LH surge. Okay. So we're not ovulating. And as we're not ovulating, we're not bleeding. Okay. If you have a true menstrual cycle, we always know that in retrospect, you ovulated. If you have a menstrual cycle, it means you ovulated 12 to 14 days earlier. Okay. If you didn't bleed, it means you didn't ovulate. If you're having strange spotting, that's telling me you're not ovulating. It might also be that there's something like a cervical polyp. Maybe there's some uterine fibroids. Okay. Maybe there's haphazard ovulation or changes in hormones. If you're having really heavy bleeding, I'm thinking, is there estrogen dominance? Are there fibroids? If you're having really painful bleeding, right? So there's definitely changes that can take place as we progress through our 40s and into our 50s, and it can go wonky. Okay. And a lot of women say, my moms and aunties didn't tell me this stuff. I didn't know that this was going to happen, and I didn't anticipate it. Occasionally, there's a woman that just goes like a breeze through menopause, just has her last period and doesn't bleed again and no hot flashes. And it's like, whoa. I think those that eat a diet that's quite high in plants, a wide variety of color, a diet that's high in phytoestrogens, probiotics and prebiotics, and a lifestyle that has been relatively stress-free. In my experience, over the 23 years I've been supporting women, that scenario is what tends to be the scenario where women go through menopause like a breeze. Okay. So the weird periods, it's a real thing. So as a recap, I once again love this post by Shailene. Shailene, thank you for posting it. I'll have to tag you on this podcast episode. But she once again says, new research, women in their 40s experiencing hormone fluctuations resulting in severe mental illness. Women in this age group experience life-altering changes, not just to their bodies, but to the chemistry of their brains. These changes often pale in comparison to menopause. Okay, so we're talking about women in their 40s here. Okay, I love this because it's, I work with women of all ages, but I would say most of them are in their 40s. Okay, we went through this laundry list of symptoms. She says few women recognize that fluctuating hormones can result in these symptoms. Hopefully you got something out of me kind of digging into some cause, effect, possible steps to start taking. She says, for myself, these things were happening, but not all at once. Some weeks I felt great. So I convinced myself I just needed to be more disciplined. Okay. I want you to remember we are dynamic, ever changing beings. Okay. We're not going to be the same each week, each month, each decade, each chapter of our lives. We get to embrace that. And it's one of the beautiful aspects that comes out of this decade of 40s and obviously 50s and beyond. She says, newsflash, discipline doesn't regulate hormones. It is your right to request a complete hormone panel. If your practitioner isn't the right fit, find one who specializes in hormone support. And here you are. There's a reason you're here listening to this. Okay. I can be your person. I can be your person. I can be that hormone specialist that also has a team where we're bringing in, if you are open to it, mindset and trauma release and sexuality and nutrition and looking at functional medicine tests, all in an online space, unless you come join me at one of my in-person events or women's retreats as part of what you're doing. And we get to help move the needle to help you no longer feel exhausted, no longer wondering, could this be my hormones? No more being told, it's just part of aging. Here's your prescription. It's all in your head. That BS is not okay. All right. Just keep advocating for yourself. And I am so grateful that you've been here listening. For those of you on Facebook, please contribute. Please let me know what really called to you. For those of you listening to the podcast, check out the show notes. Once again, if you're listening in December, we've got some hot sizzling deals. Whatever you notice and you have questions, you're welcome to email the team at admin@marayabrown.com. Find me in any of the social media platforms. Ask your questions. I'm very approachable. My preference is quality over quantity, although I'm not opposed to quantity. And if you're listening to this after December, I'm still always approachable. Okay. There's a lot of different ways that you can receive support. Okay. And I don't want you to give up. Sometimes some women feel like there's a sense of desperation, like I've tried everything. I don't know where to turn. And if we pop on a call, if you apply for a call and we pop on that call, and if I offer you a spot in one of my offerings, please know that that means I am assured that me and the team can support you. And if it means that you're going to borrow my trust and hope for just a little bit, that is okay. Okay, you can borrow my trust for a little bit until you've regained your own confidence, right? We've given you some swift results and solutions so that you have the oomph again, the energy and the power to start taking your own steps, still with hand-holding and support. But sometimes it's really helpful to have someone where you could borrow their trust for a little bit. Faith goes a long way, right? We sit down on a chair, we have faith that's going to catch us. We jump up, we have faith gravity will pull us down. Okay. The law of rhythms is always there. Tide comes in, tide goes out, sun comes up, sun comes down. We can trust that. Okay. It's okay for you to have some faith here. It's okay for you to trust in the law of rhythms here. And it's okay to trust in the law of opposites, meaning there is always the contradictory. Okay. If you are feeling tired, I promise energized is on the other side. If, I could give examples on and on, but I just want you to know that we get to feel grateful for the pain points and the desires and the symptoms that are showing up, knowing that they would not be there. It cannot be in existence without the opposite. And so, I hope this has been helpful. And I hope that I have the opportunity, if it's a good fit, to create a personalized package for you to help you create those opposites, to shift the gaze and create your vibrancy, your spectacular. And with that, I wish you all well. I honor your time and thank you for sharing this time with me.